Week we are exploring with Sven, getting a look at the rapid changes to our environment. Now, Sven saw it firsthand during his recent expedition to the Arctic, and he is live at the Bell Museum in St. Paul this morning to explain what is happening to the north. Just the little bit I've seen from that trip, Sven, it's incredible.
Yeah, so in the last ice age, huge parts of the planet were covered in ice, including almost all of Minnesota. And we had these giant creatures that were living here. And as the climate was warming up naturally and humans spread, we saw extinction of these big animals, like the woolly mammoth that you can see here at the Bell Museum. But our Arctic is the one place you can go to today to still see mostly ice-covered landscapes, but it is changing rapidly. We went to Norway, but further north of mainland Norway to Svalbard, high in the Arctic.
Norway is the land of my ancestors, and many of yours too. Most of mine are still buried in this incredible land of mountains, the most notorious of them being the Vikings.
Part of what made the Viking era possible was a warmer climate. It was the medieval warm period, a very warm period in the last couple of thousand years that allowed them to explore colder places than even Scandinavia. But we also know that now our climate is even warmer than then.
I've wanted to travel farther north than where my family is from to see firsthand the impacts of man-made climate change. Far north of mainland Norway sits Svalbard, high in the Arctic.
One of the northernmost settlements on the planet. We're at 79 degrees latitude. This is a town mostly of researchers and scientists from all over the world.
It's a land of 24 hours daylight or midnight sun in summer, but enters total darkness this time of year with a return of harsh conditions.
And it's not, of course, it's sad to have plus degrees, especially in February, March. It's the coldest month. We should have minus 20, minus 30 degrees.
It's been dark for a long time.
Yeah, and then the rain sort of comes on top of it. So it's not only plus degrees, but then it rains.
Franca Leiterer and other Arctic guides here are witness to these changes firsthand.
Probably some animals or some flora and fauna has time to adapt, hopefully. But I think here, especially on Svalbard, changes are so fast that probably also for the polar bear it will be too fast. Yeah.
And so while the end of the last ice age was a natural warming on the planet, this current warming of our planet is mostly caused by people. And the last time we saw people and climate mix, we saw extinction of a lot of animals, including these big guys here. I'm joined by a couple of students, Eden Lake Elementary. I've been talking to them about my trip to Africa and catching up with them. We've got Paul and Jacob here. What are some cool things that you guys have seen here about the woolly mammoth? What are some things that stand out to you?
That it's huge.
Huge. Have you seen an elephant in a zoo before?
Yes.
This is bigger, isn't it? What do you think?
Probably the amount of changes to sustain the temperature.
Yeah. And you noticed his tail is tiny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never understood why it was so tiny and what purpose it served.
Yeah, and another thing that neither of us noticed until we were told, but the ears were smaller on this guy too because they're in a cold climate. They would have gotten frostbite. Modern African elephants, their cousins, have these big ears to kind of help cool themselves out. But what's left of the big creatures on this planet is mostly Africa, and those are animals that, of course, are threatened. We're going to be talking more about that later in the week, but we're also talking more about Svalbard and some of the changes there and why ice is so important to the Arctic ecosystems tomorrow.
Fascinating stuff, Sven. Thank you very much. And Jeff, we've even seen Minnesota winters getting warmer.